Alright, so 1.9, this will be the last section in this chapter before we have another assessment. A lot of this is not going to be new, so we're going to do distance formula, midpoint formula. You've seen both those before. Standard form of a circle is going to be pretty easy, and then these last two are going to go together. General form of a circle and completing the square. Completing the square, remember, we've done before. So we'll review that and talk about how we can use that to apply general form to get standard form. Starting off in our distance formula, we're going to have the distance between 2 points is just going to be equal to the square root of x squared minus, or I'm sorry, x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And if we do an example then, so if I have my distance formula, big square root, and I'm going to do x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, and simplifying, I'll have 4 squared plus, this will be a negative 6 squared, all under the square root. Remember, this needs to be in parentheses, otherwise you're going to have issues when you get negatives. So we'll have the square root of 16 plus 36, and that's going to give us the square root of 52. Okay, and then you can plug that in your calculator, get a decimal approximation. It should be probably, I don't know, maybe about 7.1 or 7.2. If you left it as just a square root of 52, that would be better. Okay, next formula is going to be our midpoint formula then. So we start with our same 2 points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and we plug it in. We're getting a set of coordinates. Don't forget, midpoint is going to be a set of coordinates. And we just take the average of our x's, meaning add them together, divide by 2. Take the average of our y's, add them together, divide by 2. So an example for this one, I'm going to take my x's, add them together, and divide by 2. And it really doesn't matter what order you put your x's in. The other thing, plugging into your calculator, we need to remember that there needs to be parentheses around there. And then I'm going to add my y's together and divide them by 2. Again, I included my parentheses here. So 1 plus negative 8 is going to give us negative 7 over 2 and negative 10 over 2. So we could simplify that, and we'll get negative 3.5 and negative 5. Which means if we plotted these 2 points on our xy axis, that would be the point that was halfway between them. That's your distance and midpoint formula. Moving on then for standard form of a circle. So we're going to have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where the h and k values, so these 2 values, are going to be the center, and then the r is going to be your radius. Now there will be times that you may need to factor in order to get it in this form. And sometimes, as we're going to talk when we look at general form, sometimes we'll have to complete the square so that we can get it in a form where we can factor. So if I give you center 0, 0 and radius 2, that means h is 0 and k is 0. So we'd have x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals, and then our radius is 2, so 2 squared is going to give us 4. You could also just write this as x squared plus y squared equals 4, since both of these are 0. For this one then, our center would be 2, and we want the opposite here, negative 4, and our radius is 3. Remember, you need to take the square root of this number so we can get 3. And the last piece is probably going to be the most complicated piece. So our general form is going to be x squared plus y squared plus dx plus ey plus f. So we're going to have, in other words, some number times x plus some number times y, and then just adding some constant. Okay, really it's worthless to us unless we complete the square twice, meaning we're going to complete the square on x squared plus dx, and then we're also going to complete the square on y squared plus ey. And after we do that, it gives us standard form. So 2 things to remember here. If this is d, what we're going to add to both sides is d over 2 squared. That will help complete the square for x. And if we're going to complete the square for y, we're going to do e over 2 squared. And after we do that, the next step would be x plus d over 2 squared, and on this one it's going to be y plus d over 2, e over 2 squared. Okay, that's some stuff we went over several assessments ago that we're going to need to continue to use, as well as factoring. Okay, this is going to be important to us all year. So if I look at this, I'm going to reorganize my stuff. First, I'm going to bring negative 23 to the other side, and at the same time I'm also going to put all my x's together. I'm going to leave a space here, put my y's together, leave another space, and then since I bring that 23 over, I'm going to add 23 to both sides is what I mean, and plus 23, okay, which means d is a negative 4. So d over 2 squared is going to give me a positive 4, because negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. So that's the first piece I'm going to add to both sides. Okay, the other thing we said was e is negative 6, and we're going to take e over 2 squared. So negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, and negative 3 squared is 9. So I'm also going to add 9 to both sides. Now you see I've only done it once here. I need to make sure I say plus 4 plus 9. Okay, it's got to be done to both sides. So when I do that, on this side I'm going to get 36. That's good. Now here we need to look at these as two different entities. Remember, the whole goal is to get standard form, so we're trying to get it as x minus h squared and y minus k squared. And y minus k squared. Okay, so the form then is always going to be x plus d over 2 squared and y plus e over 2 squared. Okay, so x and then d over 2 is negative 2 squared plus y and then e over 2 is going to be y minus 3 squared, and that equals 36. So I'm just going to scroll down. I'm going to rewrite my whole equation here so I can see it in standard form. So I have x minus 2 squared, I'm not changing anything, just rewriting it, y minus 3 squared equals 36, which would tell me that the center is hk, which means 2, 3, and your radius, this is r squared, so our radius would be 6. And so completing the square twice is going to give us in our standard form, which is what we have right here, and that tells us our center and radius. Alright, so that is it for this lesson. We very quickly went over distance and midpoint. Those were pretty new for us. Standard form is pretty easy as long as you can identify hk and then remember to take the square root a lot of times to get r. Toughest part is probably these last two where we complete the square twice to get general form into standard form. Alright, we'll see you.